Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being with us here tonight as we gather to listen to the words of Mosab Abu Toha. Today is the 442nd day of the ongoing genocide in Gaza. 442 days of unimaginable loss, erasure, and displacement. As we gather at Dar al-Fanoon in the last event of this year, allow me to say that this evening is not about resolution or closure. The pain this year has brought to Gaza is immense, and the weight of that pain remains heavy before us. Tonight is about presence. It is about holding space for what endures through the voices of Palestinians in Gaza, across Palestine, and around the world. It is an evening to honor the artists and writers of Palestine who continue to create, to name, to narrate, and to insist on being seen and heard. It is also a moment to remember those who are no longer with us, whose lives were taken, but whose memory will never fade. It's hard to imagine a more fitting way to gather today than to listen to the words of Mosab Abu Toha. Mosab is part of a continuum of Palestinian voices that refuse erasure and defy silence. This evening, Mosab will share readings from his second collection, Forest of Noise, published this October, a year after the beginning of this war on Gaza. The poems in this collection span several years, chronicling life in Gaza and life amidst this war. His work embodies his determination to write back, telling the stories of Gaza so they are carried forward. Mosab Abu Toha is an award-winning Palestinian poet, short story writer, and essayist from Gaza. He is the founder of the Edward Said Library, Gaza's first English language library, which he hopes to rebuild one day. His first collection of poetry, Things You May Find Hidden in My Ear, was a finalist for the National Book Critics Circle Award for Poetry and won the Palestine Book Award, the American Book Award, and was a finalist for the Walcott Poetry Prize. Mosab, thank you for being with us tonight. It's an honor to have you. And for our audience, I would just add that we hope that today is really about gathering and listening, so there will not be a Q&A after the reading, but we are hoping that Mosab will soon be able to join us in person in Amman sometime soon so that we can engage with directly. Mosab, thank you for being here, and the floor is all yours.
Thank you so much, Khalid. Thank you, Ahmed. Thank you, Darat al-Fanoon, for offering this window to the outside world where we talk about places where there are no windows, there are no doors, there are no voices except for the voices of the anguished, the people who are being killed by the Israeli occupation, the genocidal army, the genocidal state of Israel for about 15 months. Today I will be reading some of my poems from my newly published poetry collection, Forest of Noise. And I will just read maybe 2 poems from my first poetry book that was published more than 2 years ago. So before I start reading, I would like to highlight that Gaza has been under the Israeli bombardment, under the Israeli siege. Of course, under the Israeli siege for years, but under the Israeli genocidal attacks for about 15 months. We have families, we have friends, we have neighbors, we have students in Gaza who about whom we don't have enough information. The connection is lost between Gaza and the outside world, except for some people who have some eSIM cards to stay in touch with the world. The Kamal Udwan hospital is under attack right now. It's been under attack for months, but especially yesterday, it's been under horrific attacks by the Israeli army. And the world is not reporting on what's happening. Unfortunately, this is part of what it means to be surviving a genocide. So let's keep our eyes on Gaza, keep our eyes on what's happening in Kamal Udwan hospital right now, and also all over the Gaza Strip. I will start from a poem that's called Gaza Notebooks 2021-2023. I will just read a few parts. At 5th grade, I visit the school library. On a wall by the door, a poster claims. If you read books, you live more than one life. Now I'm 30, and whenever I look at faces around me, old or young, on each forehead I read, if you live in Gaza, you die several times. The bomb, when it pounded the sea, made an eye socket beneath the sand. The fish thought the sea had been crying forever. She asked her teacher, if there are 4 directions, then why do we have only 2 feet? No one at home. The doorknob, only dust touches it now. Pots grow parched. Frying pans miss the smell of the olive oil. Clotheslines everywhere pine for soap scent. The flower pot, the window, the key, the language. Stones after house, stones of the house after explosion get amnesia. Some forget they were in a wall in a bedroom or a kitchen or a bathroom. Some in a ceiling. Some forget they sat behind photo frames for years. A few stones forget they were stones, those hit by the bomb. Next poem is My son throws a blanket over my daughter. Gaza, May 2021. At night, at home, we sit on the floor, close to each other, far from the windows and the red lights of the bombs. Our backs bang on the walls whenever the house shakes. We stare at each other's faces, scared yet happy that so far our lives have been spared. The walls wake up from their fitful sleep, no arms to wipe at their bleary eyes. Flies gather around the only lit ceiling lamp for warmth in the bitter night, cold except when the missiles hit and burn up houses and roads and trees. The neighborhood next to us, where Yazan learned to ride his bike, scorched. Every time we hear a bomb falling from an F-16 or an F-35, our lives panic. Our lives freeze somewhere in between, confused where to head next. A graveyard, a hospital, a nightmare. I keep my shivering hand on my wristwatch, ready to remove the battery if needed. My 4-year-old daughter Yafa, wearing a pink dress given to her by a friend, hears a bomb explode. She gasps, covers her mouth with her dress's ruffles. Yazan, her 5.5-year-old brother, grabs a blanket warmed by his sleepy body. He lays the blanket on his sister. You can hide now, he assures her. My grandfather as well. I never met grandfather, but I can see him close to a well in Jaffa. The forehead he's wiping is a glittering, wrinkled map of the past. His olive wood cane leans against an orange tree. I can see birds the color of earth when it rains. I can watch them harvest oranges, pile them on the roofs of houses in the refugee camp. Where have you been? Grandfather asks me, his voice getting weary of plowing the thick, muddy soil of language. My arms are down, too tired to lift, even to say hi. I've been pulling up buckets of water from the camp's well, searching for words for my epic. My grandfather stands still close to the well. He never abandoned it, even after the Nakba, even after his death. His hands pour water down into the well. in the refugee camp, where land is strewn with debris, where air chokes with rage, my harvest is yet to arrive. My seeds only sprout on this page. We are looking for Palestine. The sun rises and moves around. It sets to visit other places. And we are looking for Palestine. The birds wake up and look for food. They chirp on the blossoming trees laden with fruit, with peaches, apples, apricot, and oranges. And we are looking for Palestine. The sea waves lap against the shore. They glitter and dance with the fishers' boats. And we are looking for Palestine. People travel to relatives and friends. They book round trip tickets, stuff their suitcases with gifts and books and clothes. And we are looking for Palestine. Sir, we have no airport or seaports, no trains or highways. We have no passable roads, sir. We do have crutches and wheelchairs, young men with one or no legs, no longer able to work as if there was work. We travel to the West Bank or Egypt for surgery, even to set a broken leg. But we need a permit to enter. We stuff our suitcases with pictures and memories. They feel very heavy on the ground. We can't carry them, neither can the roads. They scar the surface of the earth. We get lost in the past, present, and future. When a child is born, we feel sad for him or her. A child is born here to suffer, sir. A mother feels the great pain in labor. A child cries after leaving her dark place. In Palestine, our dark is not safe. In Palestine, children always cry. If we want to travel, we leave many times. In Gaza, you leave via either Erez or Rafah, a hard escape to make. So we search for the visa interview. Cairo, Istanbul, Amman, but not in Palestine. We don't have embassies, sir. The one in Jerusalem is farther than the Andromeda galaxy. Andromeda is 2.5 million light years. But our years stay heavy and dark. It would take trillions of years. Sir, we are not welcome anywhere. Only cemeteries don't mind our bodies. We no longer look for Palestine. Our time is spent dying. Soon, Palestine will search for us, for our whispers, for our footsteps, our fading pictures fallen off blown up walls. Palestinian village. On the hill in the village, you can chock the wheels of your vegetable cart with a stone your grandfather once used to crush time, or smash garlic with a stone your grandmother used as a doorstop. You can lounge on a wicker chair near a pomegranate tree where a canary never tires of singing. You can dig a hole with your hands and find an earthworm breathing the freshness of soil revived by yesterday's rain. You can make tea with sage or mint. If a neighbor or a passerby smells it, an invitation to join is extended. You put more cups on your table. You walk to the garden and pick more fresh sage or more mint. Thanks on the eve of my 22nd birthday, after Yusuf Komuniaka. Thanks to my mother always, but especially when she called for me to join them at the table, just seconds before shrapnel cut through the window glass where I stood watching distant airstrikes. My mother's voice the magnet of my life, swaying my head just in time. Plumes of smoke choked the neighborhood. It was night, and when we ran into the street, Mother forgot the cake in the oven. The bomb smoke mixed with the burnt chocolate and strawberry. And thanks to the huge clock tower's bell, which saved my life, I was crossing the streets and my head glued to my phone, never heeded the honk of cars or the wheels of vans screeching onto that rough tarmac. The bell tolled for me. Sorry, Death, but it was the eve of my 22nd birthday. And I had to be by the sea and listen to the lapping of waves, the sound I last heard before my birth. My library. My books remain on the shelves as I left them last year, but all the words have died. I search for my favorite book, out of place. I find it lying lonely in a drawer next to the photo album and my old Nokia phone. The pen inside the book is still intact, but some ink drops have leaked. Some words breathe its ink. The pen like a ventilator for a dozen patients. Home, Jerusalem, the sea, Haifa, the rock, the oranges, the sand, the pigeon, Cairo, my mother, Beirut, books, the rock, the sea, the sea. What a Gazan should do during an Israeli airstrike. Turn off the lights in every room, sit in the inner hallway of the house, away from the windows. Stay away from the stove. Stop thinking about making black tea. Have a bottle of water nearby, big enough to cool down children's fear. Get a child's kindergarten backpack and stuff tiny toys and whatever amount of money there is, and the ID cards and photos of late grandparents, aunts, or uncles, and the grandparents' wedding invitation that's been kept for a long time. And if you are a farmer, you should put some strawberry seeds in one pocket and some soil from the balcony flower pot in the other, and hold on tight to whatever number there was on the cake from the last birthday. I will read some poems from my first book before I continue to read some poems from my new book. Maybe this way you will see that there is no big difference between Mosab, who was writing poems 5 or 10 years ago, and Mosab, who wrote the poems after the start of the genocide. So the first poem is called Palestine AZ. I'll just read some parts of it. Palestine AZ. A. An apple that fell from the table on a dark evening when man-made lightning flashed through the kitchen, the streets, and the sky, rattling the cupboards and breaking the dishes. Am is the linking verb that follows I in the present tense, when I'm no longer present, when I'm shattered. B. A book that doesn't mention my language or my country and has maps of every place except for my birthplace, as if I were an illegitimate child on Mother Earth. Borders are those invented lines drawn with ash on maps and sewn into the ground by bullets. C. Gaza is a city where tourists gather to take photos next to destroyed buildings or graveyards. A country that exists only in my mind. Its flag has no room to fly freely, but there is a space on the coffins of my countrymen. D. Dar means house. My grandparents left their house behind in 1948 near Jaffa Beach. A tree my father told me about stood in the front yard. Dreams of children and their parents of listening to songs or watching plays at Al-Mishal Cultural Center. Israel destroyed it in August 2018. I hate August. This is an addition. I hate Israel. But plays are still performed in Gaza. Gaza is the stage. G. How are you, Mosab? I'm good. I hate this word. It has no meaning to me. Your English is good, Mosab. Thanks. When I was asked to fill out a form for my US J1 visa application, the country Palestine was not on the list, but lucky for me, my gender was. K. My grandfather kept the key to his house in Jaffa in 1948. He thought they would return in a few days. His name was Hassan. The house was destroyed. Others built a new one in its place. Hassan died in Gaza in 1986. The key has rusted, but it still exists somewhere, longing for the old wooden door. In Gaza, you don't know what you are guilty of. It feels like living in a Kafka novel. R. I was born in November. My mother told me she was walking on the beach with my father. It turned stormy and began to rain. My mother felt pain, and an hour later, she gave birth to me. I love the rain and the sea, the last two things I heard before I came into this horrible world. Tea. In summer, I drink tea with mint. In winter, I add dried sage. Anyone who visits, even if it's a neighbor knocking at the door to ask about what day or date it is, I offer them tea. Offering tea is like saying marhaba, hello. They once said Palestine will be free tomorrow. When is tomorrow? What is freedom? How long does it last? Why? Yafa is my daughter's name. I put my ears near her mouth when she speaks, and I hear Yafa's sea waves lapping against the shore. I look in her eyes and I see my grandparents' footsteps still imprinted on the sand. How did you leave Gaza? Do you plan to return? You should stay in the US. You mustn't think of going back to Gaza. Things people say to me. There is a poem called Shrapnel, Looking for Laughter, and it's about a family that was killed in one airstrike, the father, the mother, and their four children. The oldest of the children was 10 years old. They were killed just a few hundred meters away from where I used to live in Beit Lahia in 2021. And you know how many families have been killed, whole families have been wiped out. So this is for all of them. Shrapnel, looking for laughter. The house has been bombed. Everyone's dead. The kids, the parents, the toys, the actors on TV, characters in novels, personas in poetry collections, the I, the he, and the she. No pronouns left, not even for kids when they learn parts of a speech next year. Shrapnel flies in the dark, looks for the families, peals of laughter hiding behind piles of disfigured walls and bleeding picture frames. The radio no longer speaks, its batteries have burned, the antenna is broken. Even the broadcaster felt the pain when the radio was hit, even we, hearing the bomb as it fell, threw ourselves to the ground, each of us counting the others around them. We were safe, but our hearts still ache. One last poem from this collection. This would be the title poem. things you may find hidden in my ear. For Alicia M. Quesnel, MD. 1. When you open my ear, touch it gently. My mother's voice lingers somewhere inside. Her voice is the echo that helps me recover equilibrium when I feel dizzy during my attentiveness. You may encounter songs in Arabic, poems in English I recite to myself, or a song I chant to the chirping birds in our backyard. When you stitch the cut, don't forget to put all these back in my ear. Put them back in order as you would do with the books on your shelves. 2. The drone's buzzing sound, the roar of an F-16, the screams of bombs falling on houses, on fields, and on bodies, of rockets flying away. Rid my tiny ear canal of them all. Spray the perfume of your smiles on the incision. Inject the song of life into my veins to wake me up. Gently beat the drum so my mind may dance with yours, my doctor, day and night. For a moment, this is from Forest of Night. And there is a story behind this poem. I was watching videos and looking at photos of what was happening and still happening in Gaza after I left it in December last year. And I saw a young man carrying the body of a girl who was killed in an airstrike. And he was running with the body into the hospital. And I was wondering, why would someone run and rush while carrying the body of someone who was already dead? And I tried to make sense of the video for a moment. Her small body rides in my arms as I run to the hospital. There is no electricity, and the inner hallways are a forest lined with cots. The girl I carry is dead. I know that. The pressure of the explosion tore apart her thin veins. I know she is dead, but everyone who sees us runs after us. You are alive for a moment when living people run after you. A small poem called Ash. We are skidding off the map. We make a hole in the air as we fall. The air is stuffed with ash each time an F-16 drops its bombs on cemeteries. Sunrise in Palestine. The smoke of bombs dropped from F-16s has covered the city's sky. Fighters smuggle the sunlight through tunnels beneath our houses. Ramadan 2024. So we are about to enter Ramadan for the second year of the genocide. So this poem was written about Ramadan last time. It was already genocide. Ramadan 2024. Around the dinner table, missing are the chairs where my mother, my father, and my little sister used to sit with us on Fridays, and where my siblings and their kids used to drink tea at sunset when they visited. No one is here anymore, not even the sunset. In the kitchen, the table is missing. In the house, the kitchen is missing. In the house is missing. Only rubble stays, waiting for a sunrise. I will read a poem that has an Arabic part. Request letter. He pens a quick letter on paper, a letter as plain in regard to form as possible with no white spaces, and throws it in the graveyard at night. Angel of death. When you collect the souls of those killed in an airstrike, Do you mind leaving us a sign so we know who is who? Because last time my old kindergarten teacher couldn't recognize her daughter's face, which ear or arm or bloody finger on the dusty streets was hers. And a father wouldn't recognize which was his child if it wasn't for the size of the shoes, 28 European size still on the sole, that he bought her for the new school year. On the back of the paper, he pens the same letter in Arabic, because who could know what language the angel of death uses, the most spoken language in the world, or the language of genocide? This is a new addition. Or the language of God. إلى ملك الموت. عندما تجمع أرواح من قتلوا في الغارة الجوية، هل تمانع بأن تترك لنا إشارة تدلنا على من هو من؟ لأنه في المرة الماضية لم تستطع معلمتي الكبيرة أيام الروضة أن تتعرف على وجه ابنتها، أية أذن أو ذراع أو أصبع مدمي في الشارع المغبر كان لابنتها. وكذا أب لم يستطع أن يعرف أية طفلة كانت ابنته لولا حجم الحذاء 28 بالمقياس الأوروبي كان منقوشا على نعل الحذاء الذي اشتراه لها للعام الدراسي الجديد. Okay, so there is a poem that I published after the book came out. I want to read it. It's called A Hand is No Longer a Hand. 1. After the airstrike near a mulberry tree and some wild plants, they found the unmoving body of a boy. An eye was completely closed, the other was half open, watching for any piece of shrapnel that could kill him again. 2. In my city, the army rounded up all the men, forced them to stand against the wall of the primary school. The hands raised touched the newly painted bricks as if getting prepared to play the piano before the bullets drummed on shivering heads and backs. 3. During the Israeli airstrikes, we sat on the tiled, dusty floor, stuck still as pills in a bottle, in a pharmacy, in a town where no one gets sick, where everybody is dead. 4. I look at his wrist, it is crushed, nearly severed. And then at his shoulder, a bone is fractured. He is 4 years old. I say to my wife, "Oh, look how brave he is. He's not crying, no pain, no tears, even with no parents beside him." I set my eyes on his face. His eyes are not moving. His heart is not beating. He is taking a rest. 5. A hand is no longer a hand as long as it does not find another hand to shake, as long as it does not find food to share with others, as long as it does not find a pen to write, as long as it's the only meat a dog can find to eat, and as long as it goes missing forever. 6. Is this really it? Us waking up every morning, tell you about a massacre that happened overnight? Is our only job to report on our deaths, film our cut-off bodies, and ask you for help? When do you wake up? Is it okay with you to wake up to find your house on fire, to find your child charred, to find your wife in a hospital with no medicine, to find your neighborhood a heap of rubble? To not wake up? Wake up. Enough watching us while sitting on a chair or reclining on a couch. We are drowning in your silence. We are screaming, but you took off your ears. You put them in your earbud cases. We see the blood as it gushes from the cases. The blood is our cries, our ears, our blood. 7. You get displaced, you get wounded, you survive. You jump off your cot when a missile hits the hospital. You shelter in a tent, you get displaced again. You get displaced again and again on crutches, on a wheelchair. You get gazed a zillion times. 8. If we stay in our houses, they bomb us. If we shelter in a school, they bomb us. If we run to a hospital, they bomb us. If we move to a tent, they bomb us. If we go to the toilet, they bomb us. If we run from an airstrike, they bomb us. If we do not do any of this, they still bomb us. If we stay like a tree or temporarily leave like a leaf in the fall, they bomb us. But spring will come, and those who bomb us, will find no bombs among the flowers. We will be on the trees bathing in the sun, and those who bomb us, will have no sun, no place to rest, no legs to run. 10. He never woke up. I can see a juicer, a mattress, a blanket, what remains of a closet, what remains of a basket, and maybe a potato or an onion. The dust makes it difficult to distinguish a potato from an onion, but I can distinguish death. I can see it in the open mouth, in the closed eyes. I can see every one of us under the rubble. I will, because there are so many amazing poets in Gaza and writers and poets in Gaza who are sharing their testimonies while they are running away from death. So I would like to maybe end with a few voices. First one is Nasser Rabah, and he wrote this poem, and I translated it, I think 2 or 3 years ago. Letter to the pilot returning to the base after bombing Gaza. You might be taking off your heavy military helmet, smiling to those who greet you, and they might be congratulating you on a safe return from a very risky mission, but you are the only one who knows well what you have done. Shame on you. Shame on you. Spread dust over your head. Spit at your face in the mirror. Is this what you have been taught? To fight the houses and the streets that have no missiles against your fire jet that flees through the planeless sky? And when you watch our children under the rubble on your TV screens, they wave their hands in victory, even when they are dead. رسالة إلى الطيار الذي يعود الآن إلى مدرج الموقع العسكري بعد قصف غزة. لربما تخلع الآن تلك الخوذة الثقيلة وتبتسم لمستقبليك. ربما يهنئونك بالعودة السالمة من المهمة الخطيرة جدا، ولكنك الوحيد الذي يعرف حقيقة ما فعلته. عار عليك، عار عليك. يجب أن تضع التراب على رأسك وأن تبصق على وجهك في المرآة. هل هذا كل ما تعلمته؟ أن تقاتل البيوت والأرصفة دون مضادات أرضية لطائرتك المجهزة للمناورة والكر والفر، دون اشتباك جوي مع طائرات أخرى؟ اخجل من نفسك وأنت تشاهد الآن على التلفاز صغارنا تحت الأنقاض يلوحون بإصبعي النصر في وجهك حتى وهم ميتون. The second poet is Na'ma Hassan. So Nasser Rabah is still in Gaza. Na'ma Hassan is in Gaza too. This poem by Ni'ma Hassan, a mother in Gaza and a brilliant poet. Her poem is called In Gaza, a Mother Never Sleeps. In Gaza, a mother never sleeps. She listens to the dark, searches its edges, sorts out sounds, sound by sound, to select a suitable story to read her kids to sleep. When they sleep, she stands up to shield them from death. A mother in Gaza does not cry. She folds up fear, rage, and prayers in her lungs and waits for the hum of warplanes to fade, then exhales. A mother in Gaza is not like mothers. She bakes bread with her own eyes' salt. She feeds her children to the homeland. This is a message from a friend, a novelist named Hassan Qatrawi, and I translated it July this year. Still, it didn't happen. When a ceasefire is announced, I will just run. No one asks me where. I myself don't even know. I will just run and run. Maybe to a space in the city, maybe to my old solitude, maybe towards the sun. I don't know. The important thing is to arrive at a quiet place, a place that allows me to weep for a long time. Last poet before another is Haydar al-Ghazali, and a young, amazing poet. His poem is The Census Officer Will Come. The census officer will come. He'll inspect the streets and houses, and with a ballpoint pen, he'll record our losses, then depart without seeing my heart. The census officer will come. He'll inspect the streets and houses, then leave me to count my ruins with fingerless hands. The Arabic text is سيأتي موظف الإحصاء يكشف عن الشوارع والبيوت وبقلم جاف يسجل خسائرنا ويرحل دون أن يرى قلبي. سيأتي موظف الإحصاء يكشف عن الشوارع والبيوت ويتركني أعد خسائري على كفين بلا أصابع. If I must die by رفعت العراير. If I must die, you must live to tell my story, to sell my things, to buy a piece of cloth and some strings, make it white with a long tail, so that a child somewhere in Gaza, while looking heaven in the eye, awaiting his dad who left in a blaze, and bid no farewell, and bid no one farewell, not even to his flesh, not even to himself, sees the kite, my kite you made, flying up above, and thinks for a moment an angel is there, bringing back love. If I must die, let it bring a hope. Let it bring hope. Let it be a tale. فلا بد أن تعيش أنت. إذا كان لا بد أن أموت فلا بد أن تعيش أنت لتروي حكايتي، لتبيع أشيائي وتشتري قطعة قماش وخيوطا، فلتكن بيضاء وبذيل طويل، كي يبصر طفل في غزة في مكان ما وهو يحدق في السماء منتظرا أباه الذي رحل فجأة دون أن يودع أحدا ولا حتى لحمه أو ذاته، يبصر الطائرة الورقية التي صنعتها أنت تحلق في الأعالي ويظن للحظة أن هناك ملكا يعيد الحب. إذا كان لابد أن أموت فليأتي موتي بالأمل، فليصبح حكاية. شكرا.
مصعب شكرا لك. Thank you for being
حياك
and for sharing these really important works. We hope to see you in Amman soon. To our
إن شاء
audience,
الله.
thank you for joining us tonight. And may the years bring justice.
شكرا. Thank you Khalid. Thank you Ahmed. Thank you دارة الفنون. Thank you everyone who joined us today, and I hope that after the end of this Zoom meeting, you will be searching, looking up the works of other Palestinian poets, especially those who are now in Gaza, amplify their voices, and also look up the Instagram. And, unfortunately, there is no reporting in Gaza except by those who are still there, struggling to update us. So I hope you will look these poets up, these journalists up, and amplify their voices, do the job of a human being by sharing their voices with people who don't have access to such voices. Yeah, thank you. Shukran.